Welcome, and thank you for joining us for our Workday Chats today. I'm Josh Krist, Principal Content Marketing Research at Workday, and your host for today's discussion. If you have any questions, please remember to share them in the comments below. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Kim Morick, Global Leader of Data and Technology Talent Transformation at IBM.
Hi, everybody.
Barbara Cosgrove, Chief Privacy Officer at Workday.
Hey, everyone.
And Eddie Raffaelli, VP of AI and ML Engineering at Workday.
Hey, Rose.
AI is transforming work as we know it. In Workday's recent AI IQ study, analyzing how senior decision makers in HR, finance, and IT are approaching AI, 73% said they feel pressured to increase AI adoption. I'm excited to dive into key considerations for business leaders to get the most value from AI and ML in this panel today. Let's start with something fun. Which futuristic technology are you personally hoping takes off next? Eddie, let's start with you.
Well, I grew up watching Star Trek as a little kid, and anything space is really interesting to me. But I think if I had to pick one, it would be the transporter. Being able to be where you want to be instantly is a pretty appealing future.
How about you, Kim?
So I thought about picking something Jetson-esque, but I'm going to toe a company line and go with quantum computing because we're currently leading in it. And quantum computing is just going to change the way that work and interact. And the inventions that are going to come out of that in the next decade, people can't even begin to comprehend.
Barbara, how about you? What futuristic technology are you most excited about personally?
Yeah, I'm going back with Eddie. I want a transporter. I want to be able to get to the East Coast for a business meeting, to York to meet with some regulators, and back home to read my son's stories at night in one day. That is what I'm looking for.
That would be cool. That would change the whole travel and tourism industry as we know it too. And I'm sure many of you tuning in today have been asked, what's your AI strategy? So let's talk about some of the top challenges business leaders face in increasing their AI adoption. Kim, maybe I can start with you this time.
Yeah, sure. So what happens in a lot of organizations is there's a lot of POCs or MVPs. So data science experiments, right? So leaders are trying to get at specific use cases and they get stalled in this POC stage. And that's because they don't have the proper data foundation. They don't have modern data platforms. They don't have the ability to get at all of the data that they need to be able to make these accurate decisions. So that happens in a lot of instances. Then since most of our listeners are from the HR community, there's the additional concern of bias when you're evaluating your candidates and your employees, which has really come into the forefront because July 5th, the New York Law 144 was just passed, which is now requiring independent audits for any automated employment decision made for selection or promotion. So that set the forefront of all of the CHROs now that are hiring out of New York City. And EU law is fast and furious. So these are things that they're driving and you need trust, transparent, reduce bias. These are the challenges that we're seeing.
Right. Barbara, what do you think some of the top challenges are?
Yeah, as a chief privacy officer, most of the conversations I'm having in this area are around, concerns about data protection, security, data privacy. We all know AI and ML requires a good foundation of data and use of data. And then you see the headlines, like Kim said, around AI regulation coming. And so some companies are just, a little panicked at how can you do that while maintaining strong security and data privacy and complying with the laws. And I think that can cause a little bit of a pause for some.
Yeah. What's your take, Eddie?
I think, Kim, you had a great insight. It's fast and furious, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. The space is moving so quickly. There's a new amazing breakthrough that seems to be announced every single day. One of the main challenges, and you touched upon it too, was data. Do you have high quality data? Is it structured? Do you have your data governance in place? Is it suitable for machine learning training? Do you have a way to evaluate the inputs to the model, the outputs to the model? Thinking about privacy, all of those challenges can feel insurmountable. and how you start to tackle them, I think is one of the biggest barriers. Kind of that 0 to 1 problem is one of the biggest challenges that we've seen. And I think at Workday, one of the things that we did that is paying dividends now is kind of start years ago on our machine learning journey and having that platform tied very closely to how we build machine learning models and being able to leverage that data that's well-structured and suitable for machine learning is one of the things that I think is a big barrier to overcome when you're starting in that enterprise space.
Right. So, I mean, let's dive a little bit deeper into this AI and data piece, since it is so foundational and so important. Barbara, I'd like to start with you. I mean, how can businesses maximize value from their AI technology while safeguarding data privacy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first is just to go back to basics and remember that you can just take your foundational privacy program and you don't have to reinvent it. It's AI is another technology that's using data. And so take for a company that already has a program, take those privacy by design principles and apply it like you would any technology. I think sometimes people panic when they hear AI and ML and see some of these headlines, and then they just shut down. But if you really go to back to basics, and you select a partner that can, demonstrate that they understand privacy, they can talk about, they're transparent about the use of data, you understand what data is being used, how it's being used, then follow all of your standard protections. It's not as scary and they're not incompatible. And so it's just going back to this foundation and looking for a partner that can provide that insight to you, that can talk about what they're doing from a trustworthy perspective.
I can follow on then, because I'm just going to lean in a little bit more on the ethical aspect in addition to the data privacy. So at IBM, we follow 5 principles of ethical AI. So is it explainable, fair, robust, transparent, and is it secure, right? And so as long as you include those tenets, along with obviously following your data privacy laws that Barbara was talking about, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. With one other nuance that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's about including diversity into your AI development teams, because you need to have a diverse perspective on what it is that you're designing, because the primary intent of something that you're designing isn't always the secondary and tertiary intent that we see out in the market. And if you have somebody solely focused, so like a data scientist that doesn't have real world experience, they're likely not going to bring up these secondary and tertiary intents that are going to be risks to your company. So it's important, and we try and make sure we build diverse teams.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back onto that for 1 second. Sorry, Eddie.
Right.
Because I think the principles are a key part of it. And we also have our AI ethics principles, but one of them is delivering on our data privacy and security commitments. And you don't see it as building new commitments or things, because we feel like we can take those foundational commitments that we've made and put them across any product, any service we're delivering, including AI. This is going back to, like you're saying, look at those principles, but also don't reinvent the wheel for privacy for AI. And Eddie knows that we partner closely on a lot of the data privacy work here at Workday.
I was going to add that, I think it's important to have a pretty clear focus on what the intended outcome is when you're using AI and machine learning. It's easy to think that it might be the best solution for all of the problems, and that's not the case, right? Machine learning is really well suited for certain types of problems, and having a strong perspective on that and being able to change your perspective is an important part. Transparency, I think, Barbara, you touched on that as well, is another key part. Do you know what data you're using to train a model, when it was last refreshed, what the criteria is for evaluating the model, what your benchmarks and thresholds are? I think all of those can help you make a really educated decision about where AI and ML fits into your enterprise strategy. And lastly, I think taking that hybrid approach of keeping people in the center of decision-making and augmenting their ability to make better decisions faster with the right information at the right time, but keeping them in control. I think all of those factors, in addition to the things that Barbara and Kim, you both mentioned, are critical to maximizing the value that you can get out of AI and machine learning.
And then our research found that another barrier, another concern that people are having is they're not sure that their organization has the skills to fully implement AI, ML technologies. Kim, maybe I can start with you since you're in the thick of it. I mean, how do you know what skills you need, and how do you overcome that skills gap when it comes to getting the most out of your AI investments?
Yeah, so this goes sort of the classic workforce planning model of buy, build, borrow, right? And typically organizations will start out by getting their AI skills buying, right? So contractors to come in and do MVPs to test out if this is going to actually work from them. Then they quickly realize that I've got to build these skills internally, and I need to see who's got skills adjacency, which leads into the next workforce planning, which is a skills-driven organization, which Workday is supporting with your skills cloud. And so which is foundational to where the organizations need to be, because every enterprise needs to be a digital enterprise, and every enterprise needs to be a digital AI enabled enterprise now, because AI, it may not be your core business, but everybody is going to be in the AI business. All board members are asking, what is your AI strategy? And so you have to be able to source from within. And then you can use the output of the Skills Cloud to create personalized learning paths, which can be created through artificial intelligence, and it goes on and on. So it's a super exciting area for workforce planning and the L&D folks as well.
Yeah. Eddie, what do you think? What do you have to say about how businesses can overcome the skills gap?
I think Kim nailed it on the skills-based economy. It's one of the key things that I think organizations need to leverage. Where in your existing workforce do you have skills that are related to helping you build, ship, and deploy machine learning related features? How do you identify talent that you need to bring in? Who are partners externally and internally that you can collaborate with to actually get services out to customers or to your workforce? And then I think it's that fostering a culture of learning. Curiosity is, I think, the best thing to apply into machine learning. No doubt there's a lot of fear, anxiety, or apprehension around machine learning and AI. And I think the best thing to do is to lean into it and try to understand some of the technology, how it works, what you should be concerned about and what you don't need to be concerned about. And I think having a broad understanding of all of those dynamics is a really key part of understanding how to overcome that in your organization.
Yeah. And Barbara, did you have anything to add on this overcoming the skills gap? Because I know you're kind of coming at it from a slightly different angle. So I'd love your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Kim and Eddie said in terms of, looking at it from the internal skills and some of the technology that can be used. I would also say it's just important to leverage your communities, external communities. I mean, for Workday, we have our customers that get together and talk and share stories about it. But also, I'm on the board of the IAPP, and they recently set up a new AI governance center where they're helping privacy professionals expand and learn new skills. But I think, finding your peer groups and also just sharing these stories to help, figure out responsible ways of implementing it and gaining new skills is also helpful. Learn from your communities.
Yeah. And then actually, Barbara, what are some of the most exciting use cases for AI in the enterprise that you've seen that you're excited about?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. For me, it's not one use case. Like, to me, it's the journey in terms of, I think, a few years back, you would hear people talking about, there's going to be this new AI product, or there's this new. And I think it's the journey where we're seeing where, having a core architecture that can support AI and ML, that everything is going to be improved by it, that we're just on this journey where it's just going to be embedded across the entire enterprise, helping in terms of, whether it's making suggestions, helping with execution, helping with planning. I just think it's going to be a part of, everything we do going forward. And to me, that's really exciting, more than just any one use case.
What about you, Kim? What are you excited about as far as enterprise use cases for AI?
So I'm really excited about this idea of the co-pilot with generative AI. So there's other organizations that are doing it within their software. And then we're trying to do it where we're stringing it across the business flow. So, and it's just what Eddie had said about keeping the human in the loop, but serving the information up to the human in a summarization form and being able to perform actions on your behalf with you triggering it. So, I mean, you're going to hear more about Copilot, in the coming months, and it's amazing.
Yeah, my personal dream is just we all get so much information, so many emails, so many Slacks. If there was some way to prioritize, like this needs your immediate attention. This can wait until the end of today.
100% coming in 6 months, and summarizing what you need to take care of out of after vacation. Trust me, it is going to be the coolest thing.
That's great. Eddie, what are you excited about as far as AI enterprise use cases?
I know generative AI is the hot topic right now. We've been using forms of generative AI at Workday for a little while now, and we've all been really impressed with just the quality and broad coverage that some of these autoregressive models like GPT have been showing. But like Barbara was saying, I think the most exciting thing, especially in the HR space, is the connective tissue that's going to start to form and break down the silos. It's not just identifying the talent that you've got in your organization, how to nurture and grow that talent, but actually helping you understand where you need to go and hire, help you write the job description, help you identify the right talent, help you onboard them successfully, help you get the right learning content, get their feed, help nurture and grow that talent. That whole life cycle kind of being enhanced by machine learning, generative AI, traditional techniques, all while keeping you as an employee, a manager, or an executive in control of your respective avenues. I think that's the future of where these systems are all going.
That's really interesting. And then Eddie, what do you think are according to you, what are the top considerations business leaders need to make in assessing their AI technology investments?
That's a good question. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. Business objectives, what are you trying to accomplish? How do you measure the ROI or the value proposition of the projects that you're putting in flight? And then understanding data availability and quality. Quality, I think, is the main thing that that folks need to consider. It's not just the quantity of data that you have, but it's quality. And I think that's a big asset that we've got at Workday is the transactional history or the data lineage of an organization, people, and the finances to help run the business, and being able to use that to generate machine learning insights, recommendations, anomaly detection, generative content is a key part there.
And then Kim, what do you say as far as, what business leaders need to be, thinking about while they're assessing their potential AI investments?
So I agree with Eddie. This data quality is going to be the number one stopper to generative AI, because as they start digging into it, they're going to realize that some of the data sources that they need to be able to produce this content is not trusted. It's not clean. That's not the case with a system like Workday, like you mentioned, because it's a governed system, right? And SOC compliant and everything. So there's that. Scalability across the enterprise, and then being able to show that lineage and provenance, being able to have a fact sheet on the AI, especially if the AI is being utilized on your employees or your candidates. So that's something that we do. So it's exposing the data that is being used and the measures and the calculations and all of the machine learning elements in human terms so that people understand what the model is and what the decisions are being made. And then if you're using an LLM, but you can't do that for, then you have to be able to be transparent about what this is and how much that you can trust the data that is coming out of these large language models.
Yeah. And then Barbara, what would your advice be as people are thinking about their AI, making their AI investments?
Yeah, to me, it's to look for a trustworthy partner and not fall for the hype. Like, it takes me back to 5 years ago when GDPR privacy regulation came out. And you see all these companies coming out and saying, we're 100% compliant. We'll solve every privacy issue you have. You really want to look for a company that's more going to talk about their principles, how they implement them, be able to demonstrate it, go on that journey and have the more in-depth conversation with you. Like Kim said, do you have fact sheets about each of your products? Do you explain how data is used? That's what I think you need to look for, is a company that's really going to be able to demonstrate a history of trustworthiness, be open and transparent, have conversations about your specific use case so you can understand that compliance journey. And that'll set you up for success.
Right. And then a little bit of a speed round, but what's one takeaway or call to action you'd like to leave with our audience tuning in today? And I'll start with Kim.
If you aren't already messing around with generative AI, not too late, but it will be if you don't start in 6 months. Get on the train and start talking about it with your enterprise, because it's very cool and it's going to be super transformational.
Barbara?
Do not stop and wait and let fears over security and privacy stop you. You can absolutely use AI and ML in a responsible way with privacy and security, but the longer you wait to build out that program, the more difficult it's going to be. Just start with the basics now and it'll work.
Eddie?
I think it's to be curious. I've never seen the software community move as quickly as it has in the last 12 to 18 months. There's so many great resources for learning, to be able to use the tools. And I think leaning into it, like I was saying earlier, and being curious about the technology is a great way to demystify it, make it approachable, and understand how it best fits in your enterprise.
Yeah, no, thank you all for sharing your insights. And thanks to our audience for joining us today. If you're interested in learning more about how your peers are approaching AI, check out the link below to our AI IQ Pulse study in the comments. Join us next month for our next episode of Workday Chats. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.